It's kind of cold again today to start. It's about 4C, which is right around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's supposed to warm up to about 12 or 13C, which would be around 58, thereabouts. So, kind of splitting hairs here. I put on my thermal base layer, and I've got a midweight jersey on. I'm kind of on the fence whether I wear a gilet or not. The gilet should be able to block wind fairly much. I've got a tube on my phone in the back of my Rafa tights. This is the protein tights, big tights with pad. And I'm gonna go ahead and pack. This is my essentials kit. There's one tube in there and a multi-tool, and then my pump. This jersey comes with a little loop to hold the pump. And this one doesn't. The other one did. This one doesn't. So I can put them on the inside. I'm gonna put them on the left side. I've gotten accustomed to carrying my essentials kit on this side. So I've got two tubes and a pump. It's Saturday, we're going to be riding long. And so I will probably wear my new Sportful gloves. That should be perfect. And I'm going to cover my shoes. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get ready. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rode up into the woodlands. There was no rain in the forecast, but once we got out there, it started raining. We headed out on 1488 West, went on the overpass, took 149 to Jackson Road. Lots of action on Jackson Road. We went into Dobbins. We took Mount Moriah, up to Dacus, Johnson Road, up to Bailey Grove. Greg went his own route, and once we got out there, Paul and I decided to go by ourselves. We passed Greg. Greg was coming south. We went into the forest towards Richards, came back on Bethel Road to 1097, and headed back through Montgomery into the woodlands. So it was a good workout. The earlier part of the ride into Jackson Road is what we filmed. And there's a lot of action and a lot of teaching moments. I think you will enjoy the clips. I hope you got a chance to get some K's in. We did a little over 160 something kilometers on the ride, and it was really good to get out and kind of loosen up after I had a week where I didn't really get to do much training. About details? That's another evidence right there. He originally thought he was. It's all in the details, my child. The guy told this Paul and I sharing a private joke. There you go. Thanks. In a little bit, Mark will explain. There's a guy named Dan that crashed a few weeks back, 1 mile from home, after one of these rides.
Clavicle and 8 broken ribs.
What the hell did he hit?
A curb.
You know
how like in the woodlands you have a lot of shoulders you're riding on, and then for some reason you get near an intersection and the curbs come out in the road? So he looked over his shoulder to check the cars behind him, and when he turned back around, the wheel was hitting the curb. And he came off the bike and the rib kind of hit the curb.
Well, why don't we go on the hook?
It was an unfortunate accident, but
so
yeah,
14, go out 1488.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those freak accidents.
Jackson.
He was 1 mile from home after the group ride.
Fuel max?
Yeah.
All right.
Anybody going shorter? I got about 3 hours.
I'll probably go.
I will show you guys the curve that Mark's talking about that he hit. They're talking about going up 1488 west to Jackson Road and Mount Moriah off of 1486 north. And that's the part of the ride that we filmed in its entirety. And I think you will enjoy it. There's lots of action on Jackson Road. We head out here. I'll show you guys the curve he's talking about in the woodlands. We've shown that before. They have the little shoulder that they put there really for the road, like when we have a lot of rain, so the road doesn't get washed away. It's not really a shoulder to drive or ride on, but a lot of runners and cyclists use it. Every time you get to an intersection, the curb for that intersection juts out onto that shoulder. And we kind of all know it's there. And he said that's what Dan hit. He was looking back for traffic. He was gonna change lanes, I guess, to go left about a mile from home a few weeks back after the group ride. And he hit the curb, ended up breaking his clavicle and his ribs in 8 places, and had to be put on pneumonia watch. And, you know, he's out of the hospital now, he's home resting. Hopefully he'll heal quickly. Dan the man. So we kind of miss him being out here. So as we roll out, it becomes apparent we got some drizzle. We had felt a little bit as we rode to meet these guys. As you see on the camera, that's water on the bottom from the rain. It's starting to drizzle. It was never in the forecast. It was supposed to warm up like 5 degrees every 30 to 40 minutes. It was supposed to warm up quickly on this day. I wore 2 gloves. Those of you who saw the prologue, I explained that. I wore a liner and the Pro Team blue gloves because since it was going to warm up, I would just peel off the other layer. So that's why you have to dress for the current temperature, because the temperature ended up not going up as forecasted. Then we got rain. So we don't have our mud guards. We never expected rain, and we got light rain, just enough to get the roads wet, and that's all you need to get all that dirt on you. So for the most part, I didn't do a whole lot of close drafting, and so I ended up staying relatively clean for that reason. And you have to watch where your wheels go. So I didn't ride in any mud or anything, because that's just gonna just flip it up on you. So I was very particular where my bike was. You will see in a little bit as we hit more wet pavement. Let's see if we get a chance to show. You guys look at Mauricio, look at his shoulders. It's just so stiff, he's not relaxed. That takes a lot of energy to hold your shoulders like that. It should be relaxed. So Michael comes back, he makes a comment about the visibility of my arm, well, they're not really arm warmers. That's my base layer, my Pro Team thermal base layer. As he rides by, he said, "Oh, I like that high visibility thing." Before I could answer, he had already rolled by, so I didn't say anything. Look at the curb on the right here. As we come to this corner, oh, Paul flips the camera around. I don't know if we get a chance to see it. Right there on the right. See how the curb juts out? Right there, that's what he hit. So Mark said he was riding home, a mile from home after the group ride, and Dan was looking behind for traffic, riding on the shoulder, heading the opposite way. And when he looked back, he didn't realize he hit that curve. That's another piece of it there again. They're on every intersection, we know they're there. So it was really a freak accident. And unfortunately, he injured himself. So he's recovering well. He's home. So we wish him a speedy recovery. You can see the raindrops on the camera here. So because rain was not expected, I did not even bring my rain vest, or we did not have rain cape, no mud guards or anything. So we figured it wouldn't last. It wasn't organized, it's just light drizzle. And then once we got out on the open road, it had rained out there a little bit, just light rain, but enough to dampen the roads. But nothing to get you wet, just enough to get you dirty from your wheels. So you look at Maurice up there in the gray jacket, his shoulders don't look relaxed. And it takes a lot of energy to hold your shoulders up like that. There are so many little things about fit people take for granted. If you don't dial it in, you waste a lot of energy in the wrong places, let's put it that way. The ride is a good opportunity to eat some solid food or whatever you have. Make sure you topping off your energy stores, so when it's time to really ride, you'll be ready. In a little while, I edited this a little bit for time, just kind of get us moving. This road we're on is up and down. You can see it visual. And I register, but it may, because right here I think it's substandard day. It says 1. I stayed on the small chain ring most of the early part of this ride. Kind of keep my legs loose. Just enjoying the smaller ratios. We'd already ridden about 35 minutes to meet these guys. I just use the road here. I don't risk all the debris that's on that side. The roads are a little clean because we've had some rain, but there's 2 lanes. We take the right one. Across Old Egypt Road there. We're headed west. We're going to go across 2978, cut through some neighborhoods to get to 1488. Once we get out to Jackson and even 149, lots of climbs. Jackson Road is newly repaved. Very quiet road. Very nice. Whenever you get to the intersection, always downshift. There's no point in getting to a stop in a large gear. Those of you who are new to the channel, I made a video that tells you how to shift after you've stopped if you're in the wrong gear. It's in the playlist, the tips. But you need a downshift before you stop, so you're in the gear you need to take off, so you don't crawl through the intersection. You will see what I'm talking about. There's a couple of riders up there that take forever to go through the intersection. I just ride past them like they're standing still. because they're in the wrong gear. Paul Meyer goes over to push that signal to make sure this light changes. There you go. We got green. Now watch. They're already up ahead. They're in my way. I just move around them. They're in my way. You need to be in the proper gear so you can go. Then you can shift back up. No point in lugging a big gear through the intersection. Just straining yourself for no reason. That's why you have shifters. You have a derailleur. Use it. Use those gears. You got 11 of them or 10 of them or 9 of them. Use them. So at this point I decide to just kick up my cadence to kind of wake my body up. Because it's cool. I want to get myself warm. So if you watch my cadence, it's triple digits here. And I continue that this entire stretch. I go around the corner there. It's kind of a tight corner and it's wet. But I go back and basically spin it about 115 to 120 most of this stretch. There's a rider up there, Paul H. I'm just riding up to him using a small ratio, high cadence. It taxes your aerobic system, but it warms you up real quickly. I didn't realize I got in the 120s. That was like 122 RPM. I'm probably in a 39, 19, something low like that. And it gets your heart rate going, it gets your heart going, it wakes you up, gets your body nice and ready. That's a quick way to get yourself going. If you have not trained with higher cadences, don't do that for too long because you can go anaerobic. Make sure you're able to recover. So you need to know whether you're comfortable with something like that. Don't do it too long in a group. It's very taxing on your system. When the roads are wet like this, you need to watch your turns. They need to be smoother. You need to keep your bike upright as much as possible. You don't want to lean it too aggressively. I have the Vittoria Evo CX open tubular tires on this bike I'm riding, and I found they have great traction in wet. I was not aware of it. I went back and read up on it after this ride because of how they felt, and that's one of their features. They have excellent wet traction. I could literally tell what the tires were doing in the corners, and you'll see that we go down an overpass and one of the riders are telling us to slow down. I just rolled past them because it just did not feel, I could tell the bike was tracking really well. Plus it was concrete, and on the concrete pavements you had to put little grooves in there to get the water off the road, so you don't have a lot of standing water even though it's damp. It dries out quickly. But these tires are really good in the wet. I was not aware. I went back, looked it up because of how they perform. So it's impressive. They're great in dry and wet. They're not for everyday riding. They're a racing tire. They're 320 TPI high cotton. They call them open tubulars. That's as close as you will come to a tubular tire in a clincher. Just well made. They basically sing to you. You get so much feedback, and then they sound great on the pavement, even when it's wet. Paul's cleaning the lens. The raindrops are on it. road, we're gonna turn right, and then we're gonna go up to 1488. It's probably about 50 yards up.
Clear.
So each person checks to make sure the traffic condition has not changed. Just because the first guy says it's clear does not mean it's gonna stay clear. So every person keeps looking and lets the next person know it's still clear. And if it changes, you have to wait, you wait. Because the group should wait for you if you're caught because of
that,
traffic.
Last Thursday, it was pretty scary. Yeah.
I edited it here. After we stopped, the light was long, and so I just edited it to get us through here, edited for time. That's Greg's shot over there with his time trial bike. He's still fiddling with the fit. He had to stop in Dakar to play with the saddle. He's the one we passed when we're going to Richards. There was Richards later in the ride. We get through here, that light's very short. As we enter the intersection, it went to red. But we got through okay. That's one reason why you want to make sure you're in the right gear. Get through those intersections quickly. If you're trying to clip in and your cleat is not cooperating, just rest your foot on the pedal and use the other leg that's clipped in and do one-legged pedaling to get you through the intersection. Don't stay in the middle of the intersection trying to clip in. Get through the intersection, then sort that out.
For United Airlines, I work for United Airlines. I'm on IT department support.
I'm soft pedaling pretty much here. Just I'm waiting for Paul to come up. There, he's going by. I think in a little while I'm going to tell Paul we need to get up there. See, the roads are already wet. It's rained out here a little bit, mostly light rain. I'm staying next to the white line because it's dry. I've already told Paul we need to get up there. This is why you need to work on your cadence. You cannot be riding for 4 hours or 3 hours lugging a big gear. Your legs can only take so much, and plus it's not biomechanically the most efficient way to ride. So you need to have acceleration. You accelerate with high cadence, and then once you get to the speed, you can cruise. You see how quickly we close the gap. I'm not sure what we're talking about here. It's something I'm pointing out to Paul. This area to the right has a bunch of hills back in those neighborhoods. That's what Cimarron is. And a place called Sendera. A lot of equestrian properties. So during the week, sometimes I'll come out there and just do loops and 10 kilometers of climbs. So if you never look these things up on the map or explore, you can ride past these areas and never know what's back there.
see where I am. I got my tire right next to that white line because it's dry there. Since I don't have mud guards on, I want to make sure I don't get any kind of spray on my rear. Because, you know, you get wet and it's a cold morning. It stayed around, it says 5C now, it stayed around 42 Fahrenheit, 5 Celsius for quite a bit of the ride. So really the ride has not started in earnest yet. You can see we're not tight. Once the pace heats up, everything changes. Right now we're just kind of rolling along, even though we're moving at a good clip. We really haven't started riding hard. That's why you see people two abreast. That's another way you can tell. If you look at the sky in the distance, that's what they're forecasting, partly cloudy. There was no rain, so the rain surprised everybody, and so the temperatures stayed low longer than forecasted.
Yeah.
But by 11 a.m. it just changed
I'm
dramatically.
chilling it with my body and it's stable without the wind.
There's a lot of gravel here, so I use the
Making it a
road
mess.
so Paul can move over. In a little bit, I think the pace will pick up. You'll see we'll go single file. There's a lot of, that's from the rain. The rain washes a lot of the sand and silt from the side onto this pavement. So I'm staying next to the white line because it's clean. Of course, it's dry. Most of this is dry, but by staying next to the white line, I don't have to deal with a lot of debris. Whenever I do go onto the main lane, I check before I do that. This road we're passing is called Superior Road. We've been back in there. They got some nice climbs in there too. We found I think a 9% climb or something. So now you can see the pace is picking up. You notice the three guys in the front are now in single file. They're not riding two abreast anymore. I move up immediately. Because we're going uphill at 34 kilometers an hour. The pace is up. Just a gradual 1%, 0.7, you know, falls flat. And in about maybe 3 kilometers we'll come to an overpass. That's a long 3.5% climb, something like that. So you need to make sure that you have not spent everything out here. I'm looking to see what cog I'm in. Still on the small chainring, I believe. Just looking for reference to see what I'm riding. It feels easy. I'm checking. It looks like I'm on a big chainring. I don't think I'm in a small chainring. So I'm probably in a 53-23 or something like that, or a 19, no more than that. So I must have been in the big chain ring since we chased up to close the gap back there. Because I have a 36 on this bike, I don't spend too much time in the little one in this kind of terrain. But then I have to be way down the cassette. Keep my cadence high. I soft pedal where necessary, because once you're in the bunch, there's a lot of, I try to maintain my distance without having to brake or whatever. So by soft pedaling when I need to, I don't overrun the wheel I'm following. I'm staying to the left of Michael's wheel because I don't want to get any spray on it. But periodically, you can run into a little more dampness than expected. You can see the pavement. Even when you're riding solo, if the pavement is like this that has a lot of debris to the right, don't feel like you have to ride by the grass. I like to stay within a foot of that white line when I'm riding solo, so traffic can see me. Because you are part of traffic, you're just a slower moving vehicle. So you don't want to be all the way by the grass. It's a slight downhill, so that's why I'm coasting. This entire route, everything changes up and down, flat, just, so you have to be on top of whatever gear you're selecting. I think I'm in a 16 there, or 17. Paul H, he pulls off. We continue. Pavement is nice and dry here. When you follow other riders, a lot of riders that are new to riding in close proximity to other cyclists, your biggest concern should be that you don't overlap your front wheel. That's what they mean when they say protect your front wheel. Other than that, always give yourself an out by being on one side or the other of the rider, like you see me doing. If something were to happen to the rider in front of you, you can go left or right. The brakes are not going to help you. You need to make decisions for steering. You steer out of the mayhap where possible. So don't instinctively reach for brakes unless you've got enough room to stop. But most times you will be steering out of it. If something happens, you go left or right, you make a decision. So you steer around whatever the mishap may be. That's the best way. And thinking like that causes you to relax, knowing that, okay, if something were to happen, I would just go around whatever happens. And then you don't worry about being too close. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. Don't be too overly concerned about what they're doing. Focus more on the fact that your front wheel is not impacted, because that's the most vulnerable part of the bike. I knew there was a hole there. I just moved to the right. You need to be by that white line there in that spot. This road's going up here. It gets there quickly. It's probably 2.5%. Yeah, there it says 2. So yeah, it gets there quickly. You feel it. Very deceiving. You don't see it, you feel it. We have a lot of these kind of things out where we're riding on the north side. You'll be riding on a 4% climb and it looks flat. That's Rudy that pulled off. And Doug's shot takes over. I'm behind Michael. The overpass is coming up. It's a nice drag. It's a long drag. They built it so that traffic will go over the railroad tracks. So the train wouldn't have to stop traffic as the growth occurred on this side of town. So this side, they had to go up quickly and it had to go long to get over the tracks. So those trains carry a lot of cargo. So it's more than 3% and it's long. It starts early and it kicks up. I just cleaned my bike before this ride, and then all this nonsense. I think I told one of the guys I had just cleaned my bike. You may hear it on film. I had just cleaned my bike, so I ended up just giving it a full wash after the ride. There's just too much stuff on it. I don't like to store my bikes dirty. So we're approaching the overpass. This is the lead up to it. It's already a grade. That's an exit lane there. We're gonna stay here on the shoulder. You can see how long it is. And this is a pretty good clip to be going up this thing. And it says 1%. I think it gets up to around 3%. It's a good pace here. It says 2% now. And we're still climbing. It's a long climb. The duration on this clip is off because I had to reprocess this clip because the sync was off. So that's why you see the duration is just for the clip. It doesn't have the cumulative duration, but it sorts itself out when we hit the next clip. But everything else is accurate. So we go over this overpass. At this point, the climb's pretty much over. start the descent in a little while, Michael will put his hand out. Look at those clouds, that's pretty. He put his hand out telling us to slow down, but it's like, that's another thing I love about my Victorias. They handle really well in the wet. I move over, you will see him put his hand out. He says it's slippery. I'm like, this is concrete, it's damp. There's no water on the surface. I can feel what my wheels are doing. I just continue riding. He can slow down. Doesn't matter to me. When it's damp, you don't want to lean your bike. You can see my line. I put weight on the outside pedal, keep the bike upright. That's why we ride when it's wet, so you can know what to do. If you ever go to a Grand Fondo and it rains on you, you'll know what to do if you train in the rain. But if you're running away from the rain all the time, you won't know what to do. The same thing we used to be told. My coach used to tell me, you want to race in the rain, you need to ride in the rain, you need to train in the rain. Otherwise, everything will be foreign to you. So when the roads are wet, I don't even blink. I know what to do. Same thing when you drive a car. You need to know how to drive in the rain. It's different. You got to keep your distance. It's slippery. You got to slow down earlier. You got to lower your speeds. All those kind of things. They transfer over in everything you do outside. So we get to this light here. This is Highway 149. We're going to be going to the left, which is north. I didn't even put on my shades at this point because it was still overcast. Green up and we resume. When it's wet, that's the cleanest part of the bunch at the front. At this point, all the drizzles are stopped. It's just the surface of the road is damp. So our weather guys really missed it on Saturday. I always start out a little slowly after the turn to make sure everybody gets a chance to get back together, the bunch. Paul's hanging back because of the dampness on the road. He doesn't want any kind of spray on the camera or himself. That's why you see he's not drafting very closely. It's tough riding in the bunch when it's wet. It's too messy. So I think everybody should have mud guards if you're going to ride in a bunch. It just makes sense. Now Paul's sitting a little to my left. So damp here. This damp here is not wet. I made sure I missed all those little mud spots that you see on the road. There were certain spots that had mud that I made sure I did not go over any of them because it would just flick it on the back of your jersey. just sit up there at my endurance pace. I don't plan on pulling very long. We have enough people in the bunch. After a few kilometers, I'll pull off. I'm looking for the driest spot on that shoulder, and it's easy to find because most of the shoulder here really is relatively dry. I'll focus on keeping the effort about 2 out of 5, thereabouts. I end up waiting for a downhill area to pull off. Yeah, I'm looking for traffic. Now I pull off and I tell Paul to just kind of roll through. So once you pull off, you want to kind of back off the pace you were holding just a bit. You don't want to slow down too much, because you got to get back up to pick up a wheel. So Paul pulls off here, and then Maurice comes through, Mark, and everybody else. I drift all the way back. I think we end up going behind Greg Schott, who's the last rider. That's Paul M there, and this is Greg. That's why you don't want to slow down too much, because you're going to have to get back up to speed. And that's why you don't stay up there too long to where you're dying, because you got to have something so you can get back in there. So I basically ride up to Greg's wheel. I don't draft him very closely. The road's a little damp, so I just kind of stay maybe half a bike length back. And what I do is I stay a little to his left, since he's on the right, because his brother is in front of him, but I'm not that close. When he goes left, I go right. I don't want any spray on me. Somebody let off the power at the front, so I'm just coasting. We're not really. There's a slight downhill to flat road here at this point. This is Highway 49 North. Highway 149 North. It veers off towards the east. It goes northeast. We're gonna stay north, which gets onto a road called Jackson Road. And after a few kilometers, people start getting frisky in a bunch, and so I decided to press on and see what happens. So it gets pretty interesting. I think it's Paul H that's pulling here. I'm not sure. I think it's him. I'm staying off the wheels on purpose because it is damp. You can see a little bit of film on the camera there just from the light spray. And Greg's shot is staying a little off the wheels as well because he's on his aero bars. After a few kilometers, I told Paul to go ahead and get ahead of him because he wants to stay on his bars. The reason why I'm not a whole lot of stuff is because the garments that I use are very technical. You don't have to wear a lot for them to keep you warm. So you need to be careful when you get your stuff. Make sure you get the right garments for the temperature ranges that you're going to ride in. Makes a big difference. This is where it meets. I let there's a car behind us. I let them know that we're coming to use the road because we're going to go straight. So I'll go ahead and take the road. If you go right, that's Highway 149 continuing east. We're going to go straight, which becomes Jackson Road. This is why I tell Paul to move up. I tell him move up because he wants to stay on his bars so that Greg can stay in last position. This is new pavement. They paved this a little while ago, maybe a month or so ago, maybe a couple of months now. And so it's nice and smooth. It used to be a little chewed up on this end. So we've been very fortunate at fixing a lot of the roads that we ride on. I love coming out here because you can ride for about 10 kilometers before you get to an intersection. You get a good workout out here. It takes me about an hour to get out of town from where I am, but even that hour, the roads are not that busy. But to really get on the real quiet roads, about an hour. Somebody says car back, there's not much we can do. The cars are gonna have to use the other lane. It's good to know they're back there, but you hold your position. This road has no shoulder, so we use the lane. So Greg's back there by choice. He's staying on his bars. he's riding long like we are, like Paul and I. We found out later, we ended up passing him on the highway. He was going south, we were going north after we left the group because the group was turning around too early. I asked Paul if everything's okay. He said he's good. Because I know in a few kilometers, it's going to be a couple of long hills, nice little kickers, sweeping turns. It's a beautiful road. People tend to get excited here. So I had a feeling something was going to happen. I'm a little to the left of Maurice's wheel. That keeps me out of any kind of spray. The road is damp, it's not wet, so it's fine. But we're using half the lane so the cars can pass in the other lane. So it was mostly just drizzle, you know. Right now it's kind of ceased. It's here and there, nothing major. I'm in a small chain ring, probably in a 16-tooth cog in the back, as far as I can tell. $16 or $15, something like that. I don't pay much attention to it when I'm riding. I just shift for what I need. So right here is relatively flat, just kind of rolling along. I stay in a small chain ring because I know what's to come. A couple of large climbs, big climbs coming up. Probably about 3 or 4 kilometers down the road. But this road is up and down, up and down. So Mark had been pulling, he's coming off the front right now. The cold temperatures bother our gimbal, so Paul periodically spins that thing around, get the camera to recalibrate, and it also gives us a good view of the surrounding. Mark's looking for a gap. I just go ahead and move through the line. He's been pulling. I want him to sit at the back so he can get a good amount of rest. And I want to stay, just keep my position. So I didn't leave a gap for him. Paul moved along the line too. So Mark's probably behind Paul now. So that when we're riding like this and somebody says car back, what that's about is that if you're going to come off the front, that's not the time, because you're going to be coming off, you want to wait till they go by. But we're using enough of the lane you can see they're passing in the other lane, which is the proper thing to do. Good shot here. You can kind of see through the pack. That's Maurice on the right. I don't know how he can hold his shoulders like that. It just looks uncomfortable. It looks kind of stiff. But maybe that's what works for him. It doesn't look relaxed. And whenever you got anything clenched, you're using energy. see I'm in the middle of the cog in the back, probably a 17 or a 19, and I'm on the 36 in the front. Paul took some great shots on this ride. Just great camera work today. He stayed with a lot of the action that's coming up. And just a lot of the things that will occur after you start to see the action is that I did not want to go. When I used to race, it's a situation where when you attack, you build on the attack. This is a group ride, we're visiting, so I put the power down for a little bit and kind of let off. Even though we continued to go, we just kept it steady. I wasn't really trying to consolidate on a lead, but you will still see what could have been if I had. You know, but then you end up riding away from the people you came to ride with. Since it's not a race, it's a different mindset. But I will explain everything when we get to that point to where it will make sense. From where I am, I can see around everybody. I know what's coming. You can kind of see the road, the hills further up. You can see it from here. We're getting closer to it. We're not there yet. And this is why you save your legs, because from this point on, there are a lot of big climbs. It's like 3 or 4 of them, 2 on this road, and several on 1486, which this road leads to. You've got to make sure that you've paced yourself to where you have something left. You can see my tire looks wet. There's no water that much coming off of it, just a little bit. The road's damp. We go over this bridge. This is leading into the climb now. It's still a bit early. We're not quite on the climb yet. You can see it says -0. I moved my gears down. It's probably in the 14 or something like that. I'm still on the 36 because we're going downhill. I'm staying in the 36 because it gives me more ratios to play with than the big chin. There, Mark makes a move right there. Mark takes off. So I just kind of, at this point, I'm not really that interested in what Mark is doing. I felt like it was kind of early. There's a long way to go, and there's the climb. The first climb is really long, and the second one at the end is very steep. Then Maurice goes. At this point, I still don't want to do anything. I'm still watching. I like to go when there's like the 3rd or 4th attack, because that tells you something's on and it's really hard. So in a little bit here, Doug goes ahead and accelerates. I'm already on his wheel, so I just keep riding. Paul's on my wheel, and we just kind of roll. You can see Michael tries, but Paul comes over to the left. We're just riding here faster, not really an attack. That's why you got to be in the right gear. I'm in a gear to where all I did was change my cadence. Michael's trying to go with us here. The group's scattered now. This is what would I say? This is not going to keep the group together because we have different levels of fitness. And this is not even the main climb here. This is the road that's leading to the climb. So Mark went really early, and then right up the road you can see them. And I look at Doug, and he looks like he's comfortably pulling. So I just sit and watch. We're just riding faster. It's not really an attack per se. I mean, it's not easy for everybody. You can see the group's broken up. And so we're not really going hard. I mean, I'm not going hard at this moment. I'm just riding, sitting on the wheel that was in front of me. But in a little bit, Doug goes ahead and notches it up. And you'll be able to tell by my body language. And right there, I think I put it on the big chain ring. I think I shifted the big chain ring because the road's kind of flat. And right about here, right there, we start putting the power to the pedal. You can see our speed. I think we even hit 40 kilometers an hour. And this road is not flat. So we're talking 1 to 2%, and we're doing, you know, because it goes 1 to 2% and goes back. There they are. We're closing to them. We're closing on them real quickly, a lot quicker than I thought. But we're going hard here. 40 kilometers an hour is going anywhere from 0 to 2%. And I think Paul's gonna flip the camera around. I did a freeze frame here so you can see the impact of just those few pedal strokes. There. Michael's gapped. The group is way back there. We've opened the gap without trying, really. And it's on. You can see there's the hill to the left. That's why I felt like he went early. And that's the first hill there, 2 of them. So at this point, what I decided to do, I said, okay, because they always like to go hard on a climb and then they back off. You know, instead of pulling the group, they will go hard on a climb. I decided right here in this chase, I said, we're not gonna slow down behind them. We're not gonna rest. And I told Doug, I said, don't slow down, but then he starts to slow down, so I kick it to the left. I did a replay here. Look at my cadence. I did not want to give Mark a wheel. That's how you go by. And then I turned off the power here, pause on my wheel here. Just one more instant replay. But this is how you go. When I used to race, a move like this, I would have shifted up, click, click, and kept it going after passing him. But by going by him here, this is power. This is on the climb. And I went by fast enough to where he had no wheel to grab. He was done. And we went by. And I kind of backed off. You know, this is kind of a social ride per se. I guess it's recreational more than anything. But I backed up, but I kept some kind of power going. And then I heard somebody say, oh, people are off the back. But I didn't back off. I didn't slow down for that. That's Doug on my left. Paul is behind me. The intersection's right there. And usually at this point, everybody's sitting up. But I decided that if they're going to make moves like that, I'm going to press on to see if they've got something left to stay with us. Because that's what happens when you make a move. So I turn right here. I check for traffic. Nothing's coming. And now go ahead and turn. You hear Paul come and tell me to press on. Because I was soft pedaling right here. I was waiting for Paul to get on my wheel. Tells me press on. To keep going. So I decide, okay, let's go. So when you make a move, make sure you got something left, because if somebody else makes an attack or whatever, you can see. Michael's there. What's his name? Doug is behind us, and I just go ahead and lower my head and just ride. In a little while, I take a look to see where the group is, but we have a big gap, and I think Paul is going to show the gap. I think he flipped the camera behind. So the 2 guys that launched the attack, they're off the back. And that's the reason I just kept the pace. I didn't really attack per se. Because if I was really attacking, I would have consolidated that move. And not soft pedal, you know, to where Michael could get back and stuff like that. But I just did that just so they can see. Because I'm not gonna say anything. We're gonna speak with the way we ride. So right now we're just riding steady. We're talking about rain or whatever. At this point, they're still not back yet. So they're gapped and we're just riding. We're up the road.
Yeah.
I think he flipped the camera back here. They're nowhere. They're not near us. So there's 4 of us here, and the rest of the bunch is back there with Maurice and Mark.
I heard that bird.
Yeah, the birds were chirping, and Paul said he thought it was the camera. The camera has a problem with beeps. Turn it on or off. And all I'm doing here is holding an endurance pace. Because we plan on riding about 100 miles. You know, that's what we do on Saturday. So I'm just holding our pace. I'm not. If I really wanted to stay away, they would never have come back. Because even at our endurance pace, it took them a while. That's because they were not working together. I noticed, you will see in a little while down the road, only Maurice was doing the pulling. So right here, this is a pace that we can hold all day. That's what I'm doing here. About the top of endurance, zone 2. This is what happens when your fitness is up. Your zone 2 can be hard for somebody else. So I just continue to ride. I had told the guys here that are with me that we're gonna just keep it steady. So they kind of knew. There they are. They're in the distance there. So I just held the pace steady. In a little while, after we get across this bridge, I think Doug comes to the front to take a pull. He asks me about my light. I guess he liked the way my light looked. I love that light. I like the way it fits over there. I'm gonna get more copies of it for the other bikes. It works really well. What I like most about it is it goes 35 hours in that setting. 3 lightning strikes. You can't really appreciate it on the camera. The camera doesn't do it justice. And there they are. They're getting closer. So had we decided to stay away, they would not have caught us. But they basically did not get a chance to rest, and they were forced to work harder than they had planned. They had no response when we went by on the top of that hill because they just had nothing left. They went too early, and they're kind of gearing their select. They had nothing left to go with an acceleration. That's why I accelerated like I did. It's the accelerations that put the hurt on people. So when I accelerated, I did not continue. I soft pedaled a bit before the corner. It allowed Michael to come back and all of that. But you know, it was just something to show that when you go, you need to have a little something left. And really, you end up just disrupting the group. And so what I wanted to show was that, okay, you went, now we're going, and we're gonna keep going. And so you're gonna have to work if you want to ride with us. And that's what they ended up doing. And you will see the after effect of that. We're coming in a few kilometers, we'll come to a turn. And when we turn, the group disintegrates again. Because the group is tired. Remember, they were gapped. And so they didn't get a chance to rest during that chase. Because this terrain, you see it going left, that's a hill. It's up and down here. They may not look very impressive, but you feel them. They're about 2.5, 3%. And you come up to them and you feel it more than seeing that it's a climb. You feel it in your legs. This is at least 2%. Yeah, there it goes, 2. So you feel it, and so that's why we ride out here, because it really challenges you. You train out here, you go on a flat course, you will smash it. But most of the time when I train solo, I try to keep my effort zone 2 thereabouts, and then kick it up to zone 4. I don't like to spend too much time in tempo. I'm telling Doug that after the railroad tracks, we're going to turn left. You will see once again Mark gives a late thing. We're not depending on him. I know the route. I listened to him when he was talking about it in the parking lot. So Doug already knows we're turning. The turn's right there.
Look, he just said left turn. I mean, if Doug did not know, there would be no way he'd make that turn. That's the stuff I talk. Mark does that all the time. He gives us late instructions, so we already knew. And I told Doug, I said that's yet another late instruction. Now, all the work that they've done, as we turn on this road, we're going up to a store. There's a stop coming up, and so Maurice has been pulling them. He comes through. Mark comes through. I see a gap, so I just fill the gap. Out of habit, I just move in on the gap. And I don't look behind. I'm just riding behind these two. And so Paul is behind me, and in a little while he tells me to look behind. Because he's looking at, look, so right now you see a little bit of a gap. It's gonna grow. We just continue riding. All I'm doing here is trying to pick a clean line. This road has a lot of cracks and uneven pavement. I just try to find a clean line to ride. Saves your wheel. This is Mount Moriah Road, the south end of it. That's why fit is important. You saw me just stand a few strokes, then sit, and just continue riding as if to say I had not stood up. You don't have time to mess around when you're riding. You just need to be riding. So everything starts with making sure your bicycle fits your body so you can focus on riding. I'm standing up because the road's a little bumpy, and all I'm doing as you see me move, I'm looking for the smoothest track. Plant my wheels on. I think somewhere around here Paul would tell me yeah, look, they were right there, a few strokes and they're done. It's hard. This road goes up. It's very deceiving. It's like a false flag. Riding like a 53-17 or something like that, you know. That's probably what I'm in, because my cadence is a little lower than I normally do. You should be able to handle all of that. I can muscle a big gear with the best of them. But you know, in the upper 70s, that's not really mashing per se. There's a stop coming up as we will go across the highway, and Paul will ask, are we stopping or are we going? Because the way we ride, we don't stop. We like to stop like 2.5 hours into a ride if we have to. This is kind of early for us. So on these early stops, we usually just use the restroom because my bottle is still full. I drink before I leave home, and then when it's cold, I don't drink till like the 2-hour mark. Paul's asking, are we stopping or continuing? So Mark said, you guys with your big mileage riders, that's what he said. Long mileage guys.
Well, that's what we are here for.
He said, you long mileage guys. You can probably keep going. So Paul said, that's what we're here for. I thought it's Saturday. What else you gonna do on Saturday? So hope you guys got a chance to get some K's in, but this is what we did on Saturday. We stopped over at this store to use the facilities, and it was a short stop, and then we headed out. But we just wanted to get some of these clips for you guys. So if you didn't get any kilometers in, keep moving, stay active, and keep those doctors far.
I need the bike wash. brother?
Turn the sucker off.
We're done.
That's plenty.